Welcome to Dawn of a Story. This is more than a podcast. It's a place where we speak the truth, tell the stories that shape us, and honor the moments that made us who we are. I created the space because I believe storytelling is how we connect, how we heal, and how we remember who we are. Some stories are still being written. Some are full of laughter. Some have changed everything, but all of them matter. Whether it's my story or one of my guests, my hope is that you hear something that resonates, that reminds you that you are not alone and encourages you to tell your story too. So settle in because every story starts somewhere, and this one starts now. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to Dawn of a Story. I'm your host, Dawn Pascal. I'm so very grateful you decided to spend your time with me and my guest this week, Patrick McGarry. Every show, we will be exploring a new theme, and this week's theme is Carrying Her Forward. Some acts of love don't stay in the past, they move with us. They shape how we live, how we remember, and how we choose to show up in the world. Today's conversation is about grief that becomes motion, memory that becomes purpose, and the ways we carry the people we love forward through what we do next. So let me tell you a little about my guest. Patrick is a husband to his wife, Mariana, and dad to his two sons, Shane and Jonathan, the roles he holds most dear. After spending 35 years in leadership roles on bond and energy trading floors, he retired in 2024 and began writing more intentionally about grief, purpose, faith, and resilience. Writing has become a way for Patrick to make sense of loss, honor memory, and share lessons shaped by family, life, and tragedy. He is currently training for a cross-country bicycle ride to commemorate the 25th anniversary of September 11th, honoring his sister Katie and others we lost while raising funds for the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. So without further ado, let's get started. Hey, Patrick, so good to see you. How are you?
Dawn, great to see you again. How have you been?
Good, very good, very good. I know it's been, a while since we saw each other, but I'm so happy that you decided to be on the podcast today, and I'm happy to see you.
Great to see you.
Let's start with your sister. I'd love to begin with Katie. What do you carry with you most when you think of her today?
I think of Katie today. It's hard not to think of what would have been to some degree. Particularly as I get into the seventh inning of my life. You turn 60, and uh, you see friends starting to have grandchildren and whatnot. But I choose to think back about her last year of her life, which was her best.
Mhm.
Katie lived in Hoboken. She met a wonderful man, Brad Nowak from Australia. Katie got married, beautiful wedding at the Claremont Hotel in Garden City. She was on top of the world. She had a brand new job, a new husband, and she was a very, very happy person. Katie was my little sister, so I was the middle of four sisters. So
Wow.
we had a very lively house.
I bet.
My sisters were, yeah, my sisters were special to me. Katie we lived in Hoboken while I lived in Hoboken.
Mhm.
So we kind of had a brother sister kind of friend relationship where we hung out and partied with our friends. And, when I had parties at the apartment, she'd bring her friends. So a lot of good memories of our lives together when she was in her 20s and I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
If we think about the 25th anniversary of September 11th, 25 years is really like a lifetime, but it's also a moment. So how has your relationship with grief changed as the years have passed and you reflect upon Katie?
Uh, this is a tough question because I felt kind of strange about it because it's hard not to be emotional about it. And it does not seem like 25 years. And I know that could sound weird to people that were younger or divorced from it or not even born. I think the magnitude of what happened that day, the shock, mm, it seems like yesterday. My relationship to it, and I don't know the stages of grief, and I never I've heard about them. Um, I don't know what order they should or what they do go in, but, things I've learned is that, I mean, there was certainly shock, and to this day, I still do not believe she was visiting the building that day. Um, it doesn't it just doesn't comprehend to me that she was there with her husband. Um, and there was certainly anger for a very long time,
Right.
that I had gotten out in '93. That was really hard. Um, but I think somewhere around 2015, Marianne and I took the boys to Ground Zero when they were, just getting into high school, and I had not really shared much with them, and we took them there, and um, Marianne really encouraged me to start writing to the boys to tell them not just what happened, but what happened to me,
Right.
because they needed to understand. I mean, I think grief is generational.
Yeah.
There's a generational aspect to grief, and so I cannot pretend that they don't know. They have not seen what it did to me. We have a giant flag in our den, the flag of heroes. I mean, it's a showstopper when you walk in the house. Katie's name is on the back of my license plate. Um, but I think that was the beginning of a positive turn of letting go of hate and trying to do something good. And that's really what this ride is about. It's about turning pain into purpose. I've learned that grief is not a problem to solve. It is a journey to live. It's a story to get through. I think everybody has a story. Everybody gets knocked in their butt in life. Nobody gets out of this unscathed. I have a particular story. My brother-in-law got cancer back in 2014, and I never forget, he said something to me that really stuck with me. Michael said, everybody has that Katrina in life,
Hmm.
their superstorm. Everybody has one, and how you choose to deal with it, I'm gonna deal with mine head on. And it was a good reminder that things happen. They happen to everybody, and so you don't compare your grief to anybody else's.
Right.
Everybody everybody has something they're going through, but I'm going to choose to turn pain into purpose with this ride, and that's why the fundraiser aspect of it is important to me, um, because I really believe in the mission of Tunnel to Towers. I also think Katie would want me to write a thank you letter to the first responders and military, to thank them for everything they've done and continue to do. So I guess to sum it up, grief to me is not a stage. It'll be with me forever, and I think to some degree we all die unhealed to some degree, and that's okay.
Right.
That's just that's just part of the journey. That's just
Right.
part of it. So
Yeah, it is. And grief is definitely like a river. And you go through the 5 stages and you flip flop back and forth. And it's not like you go through them sequentially and boom, I'm fine with it. Right. There are
yeah,
days that I even recall where I was on September 11th. Um you and Susan worked with each other and you were downtown when the first bomb went off in 93 in the trade center. She then moved midtown and then I wound up moving downtown. So I would have been at 130 Liberty Street, literally right across from the trade centers, but I happened to be in Germany because I worked for Deutsche Bank at the time. So my experience and memory was really through the view of a television screen, right? In another country, wanting to get back, uh, just thinking about where I would have been at that point in time, probably running late, wearing a ridiculously high pair of heels through the concourse from Hoboken. And so, when I think about the the tragedy and horror that happened that day, I have still not been able to bring myself. I can't go down there. I still can't.
yeah,
I'm proud of you, if I can say it that way, that you went there. I still can't bring myself to do that. But
yeah.
that had to bring, as you said, that had to start some sort of healing.
Yeah, I think when you become a parent, you realize you have an obligation to face some things that you avoided. But you alluded to 1993. I did not realize how big an impact. I kind of did actually. There's this whole thing about fight or flight,
Right.
right? Well, '93 happened. I didn't fight. I took flight. I mean, I went on a 5-city tour. I went to Chicago. I went down to Fort Lauderdale for a couple of years. I went back to Long Island for 6 months. I went to St. Petersburg to start a new career, and then I went to Jacksonville.
Wow.
And I was dealing with a lot of stuff that I guess now would be called PTSD, but I didn't know about it. It was really like I just didn't talk to anybody about it, um, because, you're supposed to be a tough guy, man up, It was like, but, like, I cracked all my teeth. It was really bad.
Oh,
Um, but I didn't know, and then to watch what was happening when I was in Montana that day was just utter shock. It was like that was where the guilt was. It's like that was my nightmare, not my sister's. I mean, she was there. It was just a freak chance that she was there.
right.
She just started a new job. She worked in Connecticut,
Wow.
and she got asked to go to a conference at the last moment, but she wanted to go. She lived in Hoboken. Her husband worked on the 37th floor for Lehman Brothers in the North Tower. So I was like, hey, who wouldn't want to avoid a 90-minute commute? You're going to Windows on the World, the most beautiful place and restaurant in the world. And, and they got there. When I tell the story about Katie, it's a really hard story to tell. And part of being Irish is you try to like throw in humor to I don't know, shield it or make light of it. But I always say that Katie did something that day she never did in her life. She was on time for something, and she got there 5 minutes early. It's just hard. It's hard, and the fact that husband was there to watch it all was just a nightmare. It still
Yeah,
is.
it is. It is. It absolutely is. I am honing in on the point that you made earlier where you said you're turning all of this into purpose. So this is really to kind of sum it up from loss to action. So you're preparing for the ride. You had mentioned that. And this is a bicycle ride across country in her honor. So, okay, that's amazing and an athletic feat. So good for you, Patrick. That's unbelievable. Let's talk about the ride. So when did you realize that remembrance for you needed to become something active like this bike ride across country?
Uh, you know, to answer that, I think I go back to why I started riding a bicycle, and I tell people the story. But back in 2019, right before COVID hit, I was with the company for 20 years, and I had an end of the year review. I was a managing director, and it was a little shocking because I heard some allusion to my age,
Oh,
and I
oh,
realized this is not good. This is not good. And I went home that day, and I didn't tell Mariana. And I got out of the car, and I picked up Johnny's bicycle, and rode around the neighborhood,
wow.
and I took a 25-mile ride, which I never did. And anyway, I got the job thing went away and it took care of it. But what I realized was, and then during COVID, riding a bicycle is a very solitary act. Long distance bike riding is even more. It's a very reflective time.
Sure.
I found it very peaceful, almost like a church. And I love being around people. You know that. I mean,
Right.
I'm a people person, but I found it to be very therapeutic, especially during the COVID craziness. And I think about a year ago, I started thinking about what could I do to remember Katie for the 25th anniversary? Because it's a big thing to me that she's not forgotten.
Right.
It's huge. Um, I do believe people are with us. I do.
Me too.
They stay with us. I know they do. This past year, she's been with me in ways I can't even tell you, and it's just, it's been a light. It's been warmth. It's been a little scary at times. Some of the people that I met on this journey, that I know for a fact she's there. Um, and when I told Mariana what I wanted to do, she was so supportive, and I never would have met Mariana had it not been for this tragedy. I don't know if I've ever showed you the story what happened,
No.
but uh, we at Katie's memorial service, so we looked for her for a couple of weeks. We couldn't find her, and I think it was September 22nd that we had to call off the search. And it was just a strange time. We didn't realize that physically we would not even yet find her, which was weird. And we had a funeral, I guess you call it a funeral. It's just strange. We had a funeral and then we had a get together at my parents' house afterwards. And my Aunt Judy, one of the few people that came from Michigan, Anyway, she came up to me at the reception afterwards and she said, "Hey, there's somebody we want you to meet. We tried to fix you up when you were in Fort Lauderdale." Um, and I was like, "Yeah, it's probably not really a good time." And I wrote down my name and number. Mary, it's hard to say this, right? Because like usually it's the other way around.
Right.
But I said, I had a business card, and I don't know why I took it
What
out.
the heck? Right.
And yeah, and then I got home from Jacksonville at the end of September to go back to work. I'd been gone now for almost a month because I was in Montana when this happened on an extended fly fishing trip. And I got home and I looked at my email. There was an email from Mariana, and I picked up the phone and we spoke for about 4 hours.
Wow.
And I still have that card, and it's in the house. And so Mariana was Katie's gift to me.
Oh,
And so when I went to Mariana and said, "This is what I'd like to do," she was so supportive. And that was a big deal to me to get buy-in because this has been, this is not just a bike ride. This has been like 10 months of me being on this thing behind me or out on the road.
and training. Yeah.
And yeah, in training and fundraising, it's been at least 9 hours a day minimum, and going back, telling Katie's story has been emotional, doing things like this or interviews, even contacting Katie's old company to let them know what I was doing. The last time I had spoke to these people, her husband and I were in Stanford clearing out her desk after it happened. That's a tough place emotionally to return to. And then there's been a lot of that through this. So, I just feel like this was a great opportunity, especially the 25th anniversary, to let her know I love her. She's not forgotten, and she is the centerpiece of this. It's not me. I'm just using a bicycle to do it. I have so many people that have supported me, my wife, my sons, friends. I have a trainer that I met here. He's helping me get through all the physical stuff. The people at the bike shop. I walked into this bike shop 8 months ago, told them what I wanted to do, and I think they looked at me like I was well, like, okay, this is a Rolex rider, right? He's not a real bicycle rider.
Right.
Well, they were half right. I'm not a real bicycle rider, but I was going to do it,
Right.
and I did a couple of long distance rides. I did a ride to Daytona Beach and back over 2 days, which was 75 miles. The first day was in a severe storm. I did a 100-mile ride in Claremont where it was hills all the way. I think physically I'm as ready as a boy from Florida can be,
Right.
and I'm excited.
Patrick, it sounds to me that it's healing on so many levels. It really is, right? We talked about 1993. I had mentioned that um I think really for us as definitely New Yorkers, right? Or people who live New York, New Jersey, really was the first time that we had ever experienced anything of this magnitude. And I remember picking Susan up on the West Side Highway and jumping over barriers and watching people come down the steps covered in soot with just blank faces. I still definitely have a memory of that, but that then feeding into everything that happened in 2001 and thinking about all of the things that you're doing now really is this is a healing journey for you. And I firmly believe that everyone who has physically left us is absolutely still with us. I ask my
Yeah,
parents for signs all the time, and I try to find the the good and the joy and the awakening and the awareness in the tragedy. So I have been able to do that for me and all the stuff that happened over 2020 in the past 5 years and all of the loss that we've gone through as a family. You know what? In all of that, there really can be some joy and there can be some positive things that do happen. Look, you met your wife, you have a beautiful family, and everything that you're doing now to what I feel is elevate your healing because like you said, riding on that bike is a really very solitary thing. What goes through your head when you're riding that bike?
uh, I think it's remembrance. It's remembering what happened. Throughout this past 9 months, I've certainly run into the wall with physical injuries and hitting places I didn't think I would get through, and not just physically, but emotionally. There have been a couple of mornings where I got an email from people that has brought me to tears. Just
Mm.
a remembrance, reaching out to our old company, and I had 3 people call me immediately, and they were telling me stories about that day. There was so much that I had blocked out.
Right.
Uh, I had blocked out a lot. I was at a 60th birthday party for someone that Susan and I worked with in Morristown a year and a half ago, and I didn't tell the guys this, but we were out in the backyard having a beer, and they told us a story. They were mentioning someone that Susan and I worked with that I didn't know was there that day. This gentleman named Tom McHale, and
Yes. I remember
it hit
Tom.
me. It hit me so hard because it brought me back to when I got home that time. I had found out my cousin John was there, and I counted over 45 people, people that Susan and I
Mm.
worked with. I Guys that I grew up with. There was about 10 of those. High school, there was another 10. uh, Coworkers. It was so overwhelming. So when I'm on the bike, I think I'm trying to process the totality of it. Um, it was just so much loss. It was you had to just turn it off. You had to turn it off because there was you couldn't function.
Right.
I couldn't function. I remember being home at my parents' house and we were fighting over the Tylenol PM because like we just needed. I just wanted to sleep
Right.
and it was just a nightmare. But on the bicycle, I think about Katie. I think about that this is a thank you letter that she wanted me to write on behalf of the first responders and military. I think about the good that we're trying to do. I think of the people that have stood by me, my life, my parents, my friends. This has come full circle in the past 9 months. I've been surrounded by love, and it's a beautiful thing. I
Yeah.
mean, tragedy stinks, but when people are around you supporting you, it's like a warm blanket. And so I think about the good and the love that happened that day. I've gotten past the the planes and the active hate and try to focus more on the good and the positive,
Right.
and just try to forgive myself for the guilt that I've been buried in about me getting out in '93 and she didn't. Maybe it's part of being Irish Catholic, being overwhelmed with guilt, but it's it still is hard to it's not hard to accept that.
Sure.
But people say you need to forgive yourself, you need to get over it. Well, it's easier said than done. Um, you know, but I think writing about all of this has really helped me. I'm not good at saying it, so I put it down on words. And my boys they're not teenagers anymore, but they're freshmen and sophomore in college, which means they're remotely listening to me this much. But someday they will,
Right. Right.
and so they have all this archive. So when they hit their own Katrina in life, and they will, when those storm clouds come, and they will, um, when they get knocked on their butt, and they will, I'm not saying it's a blueprint. I'm not saying it's just that they know that they're not alone and people go through this. You can only run and hide for so long. Grief, it's really weird to me. It's patient. It's very patient. After 9/11, I went back to work and that's all I did. I was just myopically focused on my career and career went really well. Uh, but you can't run from it. You eventually you have to understand it. And, I equated working with staying strong.
Right.
And it was, but I wasn't addressing the issue. I wasn't facing, um, what happened. I wasn't allowing myself to feel it.
Right.
Um, and, so riding, bicycle riding, um, I don't really use the word healing. I guess yeah, maybe I would. There's never gonna be closure for anybody, but, it is a better way to handle it, more healthy than just ignoring it,
Right. And
I
I'm
think.
so happy that you mentioned the writing, as in like the written word as opposed to the riding, right, of the bike. And I know that you are doing that now that you're retired. So what do you hope people understand about Katie or about grief or about tragedy and about continuing, or I really should say the power of continuing love, because that's really what it is. You're continuing to love her, um,
Yeah.
and everyone that we've lost over the years, despite the fact that they're not physically with us.
Well, I think Katie was the youngest. So if you come from a big family, the youngest is always elbowing up. Hey, what about me? What about me? You
Right.
know, yeah, and I came from a big family, so Katie was always. Uh, I wasn't her big brother. I was her only one. So,
Right.
um, this is tough to say, but it's hard not to think about the end. But you talked about love, and my sister's final act was a text message,
Yes.
and it was to tell her family that she loved us.
Oh.
And she wasn't the only one that day. But you think about it, at the end, it ain't about the job, it ain't about the car, it ain't about the house, the money, not about anything. And it's not just her, but people's final act is to say, I love you.
Right.
And they want to know that you know how they feel. They want to be remembered. The bicycle ride is my way of remembering. I think they also want you to go on. Um, and so that last act of her life was an act of love. And I don't know what hell on earth she was going through. I can only imagine. But um, this ride is a response, and I think it's a way for myself, my family, my sisters to tell her that we love her and she is not forgotten.
Right.
25 years later, it seems like 25 minutes. Um, but to your point, I know she's with us. I have felt her, but I would want people to know that she was a pistol. She was action. She was light. She was love. She was crazy, but she was my sister, and you know, she's worth every moment, every cramp I've had, every bike fall I've had, um, every wall that I've hit, and I'll hit more. But when I do, and I know there's a bunch coming up next month in April, I think my core reason is going to get me through it, and I think that that is love to
Right.
me.
Where do you feel her most?
I feel it in the things that I have in the present. My wife, my children. I would never have. I don't think I would have gotten married. I don't know. I see that. Um, I I feel her in my heart when I'm writing. I see her in the present, not the past. Uh, I mean, there were a lot of good memories, but I do feel like she is with me on this. I had a television interview with a local reporter here that came, and as we were wrapping up, this lady was from Garden City. I caddied for her
Wow.
grandfather for 8 years. I went to Chaminade with her Uncle John. And we were just sitting there like, what are the odds of this? I gave a speech last week at a country club, and a gentleman came up to me afterwards. And this was bizarre, but he came up to me and he said, I didn't want to tell you this, but I was an air traffic controller at Logan Airport in Boston. I escorted flight 11.
Mm, just gave me the
It
chills.
was
Wow.
yeah, that was the plane. And but I think she's with me. She's saying it's all right.
Wow.
I believe it.
I absolutely positively believe it too. I've gotten so many chills throughout our conversation, and what you're doing is not just healing for you. I mean, there's so many things, Patrick, I want to say. You're setting such a beautiful example for your sons. That really
I'm
is,
trying to.
yeah,
It's important.
you're honoring your family, you're honoring your sister. They never met her, right? But all they can
Yeah.
do is know her through you. So what a beautiful thing that you're passing on the family and that you're sharing with them all the beautiful things about your family growing up and your sisters and especially Katie. you're also showing them that it's okay to grieve, to go through
Yeah.
that process of grieving and being angry and denying it and the shock, and just it's okay to ask for the support as well. That's another beautiful example, but also showing them to use your actions to start that healing process for yourself, but for others as well. Look at all of the other people. I don't think that it was just by chance that that interviewer was, oh, we just happened to show up. Come on, that to me is all divine intervention. That's what I believe,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
I no, I agree, and to the outside, it may not sound like that. How horrible! You met an air traffic controller that took the plane that hit the building that killed your sister, and it's like, to me, I took it as, "Hey, I'm here. It's okay."
Right.
I mean, that may sound strange to people, but not to me. I do feel it.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, being the youngest sister, I think she's thrilled. She's thrilled that I'm bringing attention to her because who doesn't like to be celebrated in life, right?
Right.
We all do. That's why we have birthdays. Who doesn't like a birthday party? We all want to be celebrated. She's missed 25 birthdays since I've
Mm.
seen her, and this is celebrating her, and it has zero to do with me. It's her.
Right. Right. And when you start to get a cramp, because like you said, you probably will as you're riding, she'll be your strength and your fortitude to continue on. I absolutely believe that. So I want to ask you the same question that I ask all my guests, because I believe the stories we leave behind say so much about how we showed up in the world. So Patrick, tell me what one story, big or small, that you hope people remember you for.
One story. Hmm. There's a bunch I don't want anyone to remember me by.
Oh, I have those too.
Oh, yeah. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
One
they all
story.
start with the Hamptons.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
I we survived. That's all
Yes,
I can
we
tell you.
did.
We sur
Yes, we did,
survived.
and we've got stories for days. Very true.
Yes. One story. I guess it would be the story of me leaving New York, um, in search of my future, peace. I started a new career. I don't think I was really cut out for Wall Street. It was the '80s,
Mm,
but I did it. That's kind of what we were told to do. Go to business school, go to Wall Street, you know. I met you and Susan and so many wonderful people, and we had a lot of fun, but that really wasn't in my heart what I wanted to do. But what I did find in that period, I was, intentionally reflective. I knew I was running. I knew I was dealing with stuff, but I found a new career that appealed more to me. It was
mhm,
more towards servant leadership and serving public utilities, which I absolutely loved. I mean, I really did. And I met somebody, Mariana, who, I always tell people, find someone that'll love you and then let them love you back.
right.
And I had to do that. And she's been just an amazing person, still is. And I love her so much. I would think it's a story of bouncing back from what happened and just being honest about it, how it impacted your life, and try to turn a negative into a positive.
Right,
And knowing that it's okay to hurt, knowing that it's everybody's going through it. I certainly learned about the word empathy. Being a father is an important thing to me, and I feel blessed. I got married at 40, had my first child at 42, and my second at 43, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is what am I going to be like? What am I going to be like?" I got an MBA at 55. I do everything late. I think it's I think it's I think it's the story of telling my kids it's never too late. It's never too late in life. It's never too late. You can get married at 40, have your children, start a life, go back to school, learn. It's really important. And when you go in your 60s, you know, if your midlife crisis is doing a bike ride across the United States, it's an expression of love, go do it.
right.
Um, I think it's just a story of telling my boys it's never too late. It is never too late in life, and keep punching.
Patrick, so insightful and such a beautiful way to end our conversation today. And I want to thank you for sharing everything that you've shared today and for being part of this story. And I want to thank everyone for tuning into this episode of Dawn of a Story. If something you heard today moved you, made you laugh, or made you think, share it with someone you love. Please like and subscribe to the show. And if you're feeling brave, I'd love to hear your story by commenting below. It helps other story lovers find us too. If you'd like to support Patrick on his ride, you can through a ride to remember 2026.com. I'll also put that in the show notes. Until next time, keep listening, keep sharing, and keep telling your story. Thank, thank you, Patrick. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you.